Welcome to The Art of Medicine, the program that explores the arts, business, and clinical aspects of the practice of medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Wilner. I've planned a great program for today, but first, a word from our sponsor, locumstory.com. Locumstory.com is a free, unbiased educational resource about locum tenens. It's not an agency. Locum Story answers your questions on their website, podcast, webinars, videos, and they even have a Locums 101 crash course. Learn about locums and get insights from real-life physicians, PAs, and NPs at locumstory.com. And now to my guest. Today, my guest is Dr. Michael Guadagnino, who has been practicing chiropractic medicine for 33 years. He is also the author of the new book, Fitness, 50, 60, 70, and Beyond. Michael is serious about fitness and has taken a special interest in fitness and wellness for those of us over 50. And I certainly qualify, so I have a particular interest in today's discussion. Since many of us are living longer and want to be active and productive when we get older, it seems worthwhile that whatever your current age, learning and incorporating healthy habits might help. Let's find out. Welcome, Dr. G.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wilner. And thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And we were talking earlier. I do try and exercise almost every day, and I'm not gaining any ground. With any luck, I'm almost as good as I was 3 years ago. But there's just like, I like to improve when I do stuff, and I don't see that. I feel like, the leak, it's a dam, and the water just keeps coming in. But I still keep showing up. So I want some tips. So tell us about your background. How did you get into this fitness thing?
Right. I've always been a fitness enthusiast. As a kid, I was a black belt in karate. I continued that up through college. Always into fitness, played sports. In college, I went to the New York Institute of Technology, where I received a bachelor's degree in biology. From there, I went on to New York Chiropractic College, where I received my doctorate of chiropractic. I've been practiced for 33 years. Still a fitness person, a fitness guru, someone who I do a lot on social media for fitness, especially for those of us over the age of 50. It's important, as we talked about earlier, our pre-discussion. I feel that everything, as we age, and science tells us everything leads to entropy. Everything wants to kind of decay and become less organized.
Falling apart.
That's another way of putting it. That's another way of putting it. Yeah, but I think it's important to kind of not fall apart, and what we can do to help prevent that. And includes the exercise, includes the nutrition, it includes the hospital supplements, positive state of mind, keeping that state of mind positive, discussions, meeting with people, talking with people, and along the way, you're like a salmon. You're swimming upstream. You're continuing to fight that entropy, that falling apart. And to me, that's important.
Right, so that's really that's the game. We are swimming upstream as we get older. So maybe part of the mental challenge is just to accept that. It's like, you know what? It's hard. and,
And take that challenge on.
and
Exactly.
start
Yes.
with that. It's like, no, it's not going to be easy. No, you can't lose 10 pounds in 7 days, right? With this
Not
pill.
healthy.
It's not going to work. Right. So specifically, I looked into this, right? As you get older, there's a tendency to gain weight. There's a tendency to lose muscle mass. I know renal function decreases. We watch that carefully in all of my patients. And as you get older, the kidneys, when you're born, they get one kidney is good for like 10 people. But as you get older, your kidney's just barely hanging on, good enough for, one person. And if you're lucky, it gets you to 100. And even the brain, there's such a thing as brain related, age related brain atrophy. And we see this on MRI. You get some older person than me, and you look at the brain and go, yeah, look at that. There's all this cerebral spinal fluid where there used to be brain. So, I mean, given that's what we got. What kind of fitness goals are realistic?
What I talk about in my book is we want to do as best we can, fulfill our genetic complement. Whatever our whatever we get. Some people may be genetically geared to lift 110. Some people may be genetically geared, unfortunately, to lift 65, 70 or less. But whatever that is, let's do what we can. Stay away from toxins, toxins that will affect the kidneys, will affect the brain and the heart. Exercise. Just by you mentioned about you lose muscle mass, but you can exercise and you can still lift weights up into your 90s. Look at Jack LaLanne, and continue to keep that muscle mass. They found the science has shown that by keeping your muscle mass, it will help you fight off disease. It'll help you fight off illness. It'll help keep you healthier and stronger. And all that's important. So we're swimming upstream. It's not easy. Nothing in life is easy, but it's important that if you want to keep yourself healthy, you don't want to decay at a much rapid rate. Let's take care of ourselves. And even if that's just a little bit every day, just a little walking every day, a little swimming, eating right, cutting back a little bit on some of the sugars, it makes a difference. It really can make a difference.
You know, what about motivation? A lot of people are kind of behind the eight ball. They've got some chronic illness, maybe trouble breathing, or, a little bit of heart failure, or their blood sugar is always off, or they don't feel good, or they, have orthopedic problem in their knees. And you say, well, you really need to exercise every day. I can't exercise, and so how do you stay motivated when you have a chronic illness?
Well, chronic illness, I have to talk about that too. There's chair yoga. There's some stretching. There's a little bit of movements, doing what you can in a completely non-judgmental way. If it's walking, if it's outside doing some breathing exercises, there's always something that somebody can do. Someone with congestive heart failure, you don't want to get them you do not want to put them on a treadmill. But there are other things you can do that just working the chair. I've seen classes with people sitting in a chair and they'll pass the ball around. He just gets a little bit of movement, a little bit of that
Okay.
motion, and that's all important. And doing that, and you talk about motivation. The big thing of motivations is a lot of times what happens. January 1st, everybody's motivated. January 15th, no one's motivated anymore. Their resolutions kind of go away. So I tell people, get yourself a notebook and journal. Write down. The younger people might do it on their cell phone, but our generation still writes. Write down what's so motivated, why you're motivated, what excites you, and then just read it every day, and just kind of follow that process, and then add to it. Today I'm going to walk a little bit. Tomorrow I'm going to eat this. I'm going to something. I'm going to try to stay away from extra sugars or whatever it is, and just continue to follow that. And the same thing too. You can set yourself some goals, and then reverse engineer those goals in your journal. I want to lose, like you said, 10 pounds before. Well, 7 days is you can't do that safely. I mean, really, it's not really a safe thing to do. But you want to lose 10 pounds over 2 months. And that comes to what? A pound a week? And even if you fall short and only lose 8 pounds or 7 pounds, you'll be motivated because I got 3 more pounds to go. But like writing things down, seeing them, using another sense as opposed to just your mind, it makes a difference. It really helps keep you motivated and keeps you striving to reach those goals and fight through those illnesses and chronic diseases that somebody may have.
Talk a little bit about, injuries. I was prepping for a trip and I said, well, I got to really get in shape. So I pushed myself a little harder. I was swimming and I pulled my hamstring and I could barely walk for like a month. And that led to another injury because I was limping, and it was like, boy, this is a downer. So what about injuries? How do we navigate that?
There is a reality of being over 50, and that we're not as flexible as we once were, even on the microscopic level. Our cells are just not, our muscle tissue is just not as flexible. It's not as moist. Things dry up. So yeah, these things happen. And stretching is always important, and warming up is important. I consider two different things. Warming up is what you do before you exercise. Stretching is just another type of exercise where you can do some stretches to keep your hips loose, make it a workout, keep your ankles, your hamstrings loose. And then warming up is before you do your exercise, you do some dynamic type of exercises, stretches to allow you to then get into it. And then injuries they happen. I mean, all of us, tendonitis, pulled hamstrings, and you just work around it. I mean, it's just treating it safely. You either go to chiropractor, physical therapist, something you treat it yourself. If it's minor enough, and you can always work around it. You hurt your hamstring, but you can still sit in a chair and do some exercises. Yeah, during
So
that month period of time.
there's like 200 million people in the US with back pain, right?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor. I
And
know.
you've seen a lot of, not all of them, but you've seen a lot of them. So
Yeah.
is there any sort of tip there as to either avoiding it or treating it, or what you've learned in your 33 years?
Balance is important. Balance between the hamstrings, the abdomen, the back, um, keeping it nice and balanced. I find a lot of times with people with back pain or back issues, somewhere along the line, one of those muscles is very tight. They have really tight hamstrings, or they have really tight lower back, and or their abs are just not in shape. Like keeping it balanced, keeping them all stretched out, keeping them flexible, it helps to prevent back injury. A lot of times these back injuries, when people come in and say, "Oh, I just bent over, I just got out of bed," that was set up probably for
Mm.
most of the time because those muscles were just tight. The back was tight. The abs were just weak, and something just overfired, and now you have a full back muscle, or in your case, a hamstring pull.
Yeah, I have a theory. I mean, I was never much of a jock, but when I started exercising, I found maybe this is a strategy for injury prevention. In other words, if I'm a little bit in better shape, my legs are a little stronger, my balance is a little better, maybe I'm less likely to fall and then have a real injury. What do you think about that? Does that make
Oh,
sense?
completely. I even talk about that too. Balance is, especially as you get age, balance is important. Especially when folks hit, they get they have 70 age, and they really should do some exercise on balance. Exercise with eyes open, exercise with eyes closed, working two different parts of your brain.
Hmm.
Exercises on one foot, exercises on the other foot. It really helps with balance. Is just so important to prevent falls. Um, because balance, as you know, Doc, it's basically your space, knowing where your space is, where your place is in space. And when you lose that, is a lot of times when you lose your balance. And when folks fall and sometimes break, God forbid, they break their hips and they just keep the balance. So I stress that, especially with it's what people go and doing it in a safe environment. I don't want anybody in their house standing on one leg with their eyes closed, but doing it with a spotter, doing it in a facility, doing it safely. But yeah, balance is extremely important uh, for injury prevention on so many levels.
Yeah, falling is bad, right?
Very.
Falling, particularly you get older, you get kind of brittle.
Yeah, but Wolf's law, science says that you exercise resistance exercises helps build and helps keep the bones stronger. So that's why I really want people to exercise a little bit, even if they sit there with 2 pound weights or canned tomatoes. Just something to help keep it. So it's not only to work your muscles and your joints, but I said Wolf's law is keeps those bones nice and harder, not stronger.
Yeah, my residents asked me, well, what kind of exercise do you do? And I said, well, I have all these, have a little bit of a home gym, but I said it doesn't really matter. It's like from my point of view, it's just whatever I do is more than doing nothing. So if it's on the treadmill or the rowing machine or the climber or free weights, it doesn't matter. It's like the Olympics is not on my horizon. So it's just a matter of showing up and not being bored to tears, right? And
It's doing something.
Netflix
It's
helps, just
oh, yeah, you
something,
put
right?
TV there, yeah.
Um,
It's doing something. It's whatever it is. You're doing something. You're breathing. You're sweating a little bit. You're working the muscles, the bones, the joints, making the heart pump a little bit more. It's just doing something. And before you said you felt like you've been flat for 3 years. If you're flat for 3 years, that means you haven't decayed in 3 years, and that's all good.
yeah, right. So just holding your own is already a big accomplishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as a chiropractor, what kind of injuries do you see like the most common that could have been avoided, for example?
Most low back injuries. But really, it comes down to having that balance. Most of what I treat in my office is low back. I treat a lot of disc injuries, lower back. I have some medical doctors who send patients to me first before they send them to surgery. and to see what we can do first. And a lot of times we help them. And if we don't, I send them back and say, we gave it a shot, or this is someone who we really can't help. And but by keeping that balance, and a lot of times when they come to me, it's been there for a while.
Hmm.
They've hurt their back and they try to get past it. And I come and I do an intake, and yeah, about 2 years ago this happened to me, and that's when the injury happened. But even if you go back further, the imbalance I'm sure was there, and I just really feel that if you kept yourself in that balance, you kept the nice and some flexibility, some abs that are a little bit tighter, back it's a little bit looser, and the hamstrings are a little bit looser. It really it makes a difference. It really will help prevent those injuries.
Now, one topic I just want to touch on before we close is, people are looking for an easy answer. This hurts, I want to be stronger. I want to prevent injury. And there is this supplement industry, right? So as a medical doctor, my training is there's got to be some, FDA approved kind of indication. It's got to be well tested. And of course, that doesn't really apply to the supplement industry. They just put something in a bottle and say it works with some fine print that gets them out of the FDA world. And I think it's really hard to know whether that's, I mean, the danger is usually just to your pocketbook. Most of the stuff isn't poisonous, but the supplements are pretty popular. Do you have a kind of a take on that from your experience of, what kind of supplements or no supplements or?
I think supplements are important. The supplements are a supplement. They don't replace your meal. They're supplement. Living in this country, there's a lot of the agriculture scrapes the ground. It's a deep scraping of the ground. And it takes a lot of the minerals and vitamins out of the food,
Mm.
and it doesn't get into the plants. The animals eat the plants. We eat the plants. We eat the animals. It doesn't. So I think it's important for some supplementing. I do. Um, Usually it's like you're right. It's tough because there's so much out there and everybody's the best. But it's look to see what kind of testing has been done. How long the company's been around? What's the company's grade? Um, has anybody else evaluated this company? I'm really not comfortable giving names of the companies or which ones I think would be best, but that's really how we approach it. I do think again, supplement. I just think it is important. Such as as we age, CoQ10 depletes from our mitochondria, and it's important. There's been some tests done that shows that supplementing with CoQ10 helps heart issues. It's really good for people who take statins. It's especially for people with congestive heart failure. I've seen some data on that. And in my book, I use there's at least 200 citations, which these citations are from the Lancet, the AMA, the Harvard. They're from real good sources,
Legitimate sources, yes.
legitimate sources. Yes, and that's important. Natural health does not mean alternative health. Doesn't mean crazy health. I know I'm a chiropractor. I know there's a lot of times people look at me with when I, but if you evaluate what you're doing, you use good science, good data that's out there, and just follow through with it. That's why I have some. That's why I have medical doctors refer me patients because I follow that course, and I try to instill that and help my patients in that way. This book is following that way, the natural way of being healthy, but not going off the rails. It's all based on pure science and data.
Mike, I'm excited to read your book.
Thank
Where
you.
can we find it?
Obviously, Amazon. Amazon's the best way. It's again, fitness over 50, 60, 70, and beyond. And I also, if you go to my website, drmguad.com, drmguad.com, I have everything on there. You can find, I blog once a week on different health issues. It could be about tobacco, it could be about supplements, it could be about anything, fitness. My all the podcasts I've been on, this one will be on there too, are there to help people with the answers, as well as a link to get you to my book. So, and again, if someone has questions, there's an email they can send me, and I will respond. If you're selling me something, maybe I won't respond. As you know, we get a lot of those. But if someone needs help, I'd be more than happy to respond as best I can with the limited information or information that I have.
Well, that's just perfect. Dr. Michael Guadagnino, thanks for joining me on The Art of Medicine.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And now a final thanks to our sponsor, locumstory.com. Locumstory.com is a free, unbiased educational resource about locum tenens. It's not an agency. Locum Story exists to answer your questions about the how-tos of locums on their website, podcast, webinars, and videos. They even have a Locums 101 crash course. At locumstory.com, you can discover if locum tenens make sense for you and your career goals. What makes locumstory.com unique is that it's a peer-to-peer platform with real physicians sharing their experiences and stories, both the good and bad, about working locum tenens. Hence the name, Locum Story. Locumstory.com is a self-service tool that you can explore at your own pace with no pressure or obligation. It's completely free. Thanks again to locumstory.com for sponsoring this episode of The Art of Medicine. I'm Dr. Andrew Wilner. See you next time. This program is hosted, edited, and produced by Andrew Wilner, MD, FACP, FAAN. Guests receive no financial compensation for their appearance on The Art of Medicine. Andrew Wilner, MD, is a professor of neurology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center in Memphis, Tennessee. Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this program belong solely to Dr. Wilner and his guests and not necessarily to their employers, organizations, other group, or individual. While this program intends to be informative, it is meant for entertainment purposes only. The Art of Medicine does not offer professional, financial, legal, or medical advice. Dr. Wilner and his guests assume no responsibility or liability for any damages, financial or otherwise, that arise in connection with consuming this program's content. Thanks for watching. For more episodes of The Art of Medicine, please follow on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. Please share with your friends and subscribe. www.andrewwilner.com